Right, welcome back to GI Live London. Apologies for the quick pause there while we sort everything out. But next up we have a talk from a fantastic supporter of the UK games industry, and with the lessons they've learnt from working with more than 100 game developers from Creative Enterprise, Creative UK. Please welcome Mehjabeen Patrick and Cecilia Thirlway.
Hello.
Hi.
So, yes, well, shall we get straight into it? Mej, do you want to explain a bit about Creative Enterprise, Creative UK, and how it supports the industry?
Yeah, thank you very much for having us. I'm Mehjabeen Patrick. I'm Chief Investment Officer at Creative UK. Creative Enterprise is a program we run at Creative UK, which I will explain a bit later. But yeah, Creative UK is a national organisation supporting creative industries across the UK, and we do a lot of stuff. But the bit that is relevant to this audience is our work with game companies. We do a lot of business support work for early stage game companies, and we also invest in game businesses. As Creative UK, we sort of, as I said, span the whole creative sector, and we do a lot of policy work, we do a lot of sort of membership services, a lot of profile work for the sector, but our real sort of focus is on supporting regional creative businesses. We have been working in this space for a very long time now. I joined, 17 years ago, but the organization has been going over 20 years ago now. And during this time, we have done a lot of work with game companies, and we're very proud of some of the game companies that we have supported when they were just ideas and now are sort of flourishing game businesses. In terms of our games support work, we have worked with partners like Microsoft, Sony, Yuki, and other sort of Amazon Web Services and other key partners who are supporting the game sector. And we have programs like Creative Enterprise, which runs cohorts of sort of game companies over a 6 to 9 month period, where it's a fully funded program of supporting early stage game businesses. There are a few tiers to those business support programs. There's a program for really early stage ideas, so foundation program with developers and founders who are just starting out. And then the game scale-up program, which is really for businesses who are slightly more advanced and are sort of looking for support to grow. And we also have another program called Evolve, which is really for businesses who are really at that stage where they are ready to go, or at least ready to think about investment and want some support to be able to go and talk to investors and do their pitches. So with that is a full-fledged, fully funded investment readiness program. In all of those programs, we have some really interesting expert mentors, and Cecilia is, of course, one of them. And they are really useful partners for those game businesses that we work with, and sort of really provide them someone else to really sort of kick the tires of their idea, really. In addition to all that business support work we do, we have a investment program. As I said, we've been investing in creative businesses for a long time. Over last sort of 15 years, we have invested more than 40 million in various types of creative businesses, both in ideas. And we have a venture debt product, which is investing up to $500,000 into creative businesses, those who have already got some traction and some revenues and are looking for growth. Within that venture debt program, we have something that might be really interesting to this audience is video games tax credit, sort of bridging loan. So businesses who are looking to get some tax credit back and are facing delays or really need to cash flow that time, between when they've spent and the time that they will get that money back. We are we've set a product up which will help with that gap. It's up to $500,000, and it's over sort of 3 to 6 month to 12-month loan scheme. So that's the way we really support game companies, and are really interested in talking to more new and upcoming talent in this space.
Fab. And just before I move on and talk about the mentoring itself and what I've learned from it, are there any lessons that you've learned so far from mentoring or from working with all these games companies, or kind of impacts that you can talk about briefly?
Yeah, definitely. So as I said, the Creative Enterprise program we have been running for the last 5 years. And before, we have worked with game companies before that as well. But the Creative Enterprise is a really sort of structured business support program for game companies, and hopefully some of you would have had a chance to sort of be part of that. But it is really working with businesses on a very sort of deep level, where we work with businesses on really trying to tackle various issues they have while they are sort of setting the business up and growing that business and taking it to next stage. So our whole expert of mentors, as well as our own sort of expert staff within Creative Enterprise, are helping those businesses. And they are, we see all sorts, and there are few things that are quite sort of common, I would say, and quite we come up quite a lot. And there's a lot I can talk about, but no, we have only limited time, so I'll pick on one or two, and will be really, interesting to hear what the audience thinks as well. But one thing I come across while working with game companies is really having, a clear idea of what type of money they are looking for. I think there's to some extent in early stage game businesses, maybe there's not enough sort of distinction between project funding and funding for the business, for companies. And as investors, it's a very different sort of proposition, investing in game companies, in the game they're making, or investing in their own business, providing them a cash flow to grow the business. And that is something that we sort of try and sort of put across and really help our companies in our investment readiness program to really, from early stage, really distinguish their need, their business need. It's very different to fund a game versus fund a business. The other thing we come across a lot is sort of, sometime reluctance on businesses' part to sort of prefer one type of investment over another. So there are some businesses who are looking for investment and are only thinking about equity funding. But whereas there are some businesses where a loan might be a really good option for them. Of course, it depends on stage of a business. So from an early stage, taking time to understand what type of business funding will be useful for that company. There are, of course, a lot of grants out there for early stage companies. There are revenue share arrangements some businesses can also benefit from. So it's sort of, speaking with someone or working with some support like Creative UK or others to really understand the sort of ins and outs of what sort of business, what sort of money is the right money for you. And if I have time, just another thing that we come across a lot as well is I think game developers and game companies and all of you are really good at what you do, and your business, which is making games. But to run a successful company, you as a founder or as a sort of a business need to know the business of running a business. Business of making a game is your forte, but running a business may not be. So not being sort of reluctant or shy to get support to really get to the bottom of what your business is, what are the commercials within that business, what will make it work, what won't make it work, what are the other things beyond the technical expertise of making a game that you require early on in your business to put in place, whether that is, someone to look after your finances, someone to give you advice around marketing, someone to give you advice around structuring your board and governance, or how to reach investors, how to get government grant funding. So that sort of putting all those things in place early on really, really helps.
Yeah,
great,
absolutely.
Excellent. So I think it will be great to sort of hear from you, Cecilia, as well. I know I've been talking non-stop for, I don't know, maybe 10 minutes. So I think you are one of the sort of key mentors at Creative UK, who has been working with some of our very interesting businesses for the last couple of years. What are your sort of learning? What have you seen while working with those businesses? And I know you have special interest in game companies, so
Yes.
it will be really good to hear your thoughts.
Yes, so I think the first thing I would say is actually working with games companies for me is one of the best bits of the job. I think it's such a fascinating industry where there is so much really kind of boundary-pushing work happening. And I'm particularly interested in narratives because I'm a communications specialist, and I think some of the work in narrative in the games industry is absolutely fantastic. So for me, it's a real pleasure and a privilege to mentor games companies on, and I work on the Evolve programme, which is the investment readiness programme at Creative UK. So then the other thing I would say is what Mej was saying about knowing what kind of funding you're looking for, what kind of investment you're looking for, what the business needs in order to grow. That's a big part of what I help companies with. And what I come across is that companies are very good at talking about their work, and used to pitching projects to publishers, etc. Really good at that. But sometimes tailoring the story for a particular kind of investor or for a particular kind of grant is something that just needs some extra time to work on. And so what I aim to do as a mentor is create some space for us to work on that story together, to tell the story of the business, to emphasise the bits that need telling according to the audience that we're talking to. So that's one aspect of what I do with companies. And I think then the other thing that I have come across a lot is that telling a good story is one thing, but having that robust underpinning of the business underneath it is really important. If you can do a good pitch, but then the first kind of question about, cash flow forecasts or whatever it might be, kind of doesn't have the right answers to it, then things tend to fall apart. So helping companies just get all of those systems, processes in place so that they can talk really confidently about their finances, about their working processes, about their operations, and how they're going to forecast their growth if they get the investment they're looking for, is a big part of those mentoring conversations.
And Cecilia, tell me, from your experiences of working with early-stage game companies, have you sort of come across reluctance on sort of accepting help and sort of really opening up and learning, or are they really sort of ready to take on the big challenge of growing their business?
I think it's knowing where to find the help sometimes. And so part of the programs that we do, there's lots of different kinds of help. So all the different mentors that work on the programs have different strengths. So as I say, my strength is in communications. So that's what I tend to help the companies with. But we also offer sessions on company valuations and finances and all of those kinds of things. So finding that help, it's out there, but finding that help is sometimes difficult, especially when you've got your head down, you're working really hard on whatever project it is you're doing. Lifting your head out of the business to kind of look around you and see what help is available. I think the other thing is persuading people to talk about not just the projects and the work, but about the business and about the people in the business is sometimes a bit of a shift. If you're looking, for example, for equity investment, those kinds of investors tend to be interested in the business and the team more than the individual projects. And so sometimes there's just a shift in knowing which bits to talk about. And sometimes offering some help in kind of how to structure that narrative, how to structure that pitch is really important.
And what have you seen in terms of sort of new trends when it comes to early stage game businesses being aware of what they need to look out for, in addition to equipping themselves with the right sort of business skills, and getting them ready for growth and investment? Are there anything else they need to sort of be aware of as they set on their growth journey? I mean, talent is sort of access to talent a big challenge, you think?
Yes, I mean, I think access to talent is a problem all over the industry. I think for me as well, it's just having that really clear clarity of vision about what you're doing and where you're going, and knowing how you're going to resource that as you go forward. It's all very well kind of having a fantastic kind of vision of the future, but you have to know the steps that you're going to have to get there. So that can be a tricky one.
Yeah. And can I add something else that we talked about when we have been sitting with game companies, is sort of that preparing for an investment page early on. So as an early stage business, you sort of get to a stage where that you need some investment, and sometime it is sort of you don't leave yourself enough time. And as investors, we know it takes a long time to find investment. It takes a long time to convince investors to invest in your proposition. So coming back to the question of sort of what learnings we have had having invested in a range of game companies, is to start that process quite early, even if you're really early stage and you're just getting on with making your game. Thinking about when giving yourself 6 to 12 months minimum to raise investment is a really, really important sort of thing to remember while you're growing your business. And then other thing around, I'll come back to the whole as an investor. So because I'm sitting here as an investor, speaking from that perspective, we come across game companies who are, as I said earlier, very good at what they do, and sometimes feel that is sufficient to attract a sort of a sophisticated investor. And in some cases it might be, but most of the investor would want to see other things in place, and those other things mean having sometime a group of advisors around you, for example, having some kind of structure in your governance, in your board, having some financial skills in your team, even if they are pro bono and ad hoc. Those things are really, really important, and it's really good to think about them really early on while you are thinking about going in front of investors. Did we have a sign for 5 minutes?
We've got about 3 minutes left, I think.
Okay, so shall we go for some questions?
Yeah. So anybody got any questions for Creative UK? About investment, or where can people find out more about the different kind of schemes and support available for games companies? Is it all up on the website?
Yes, it's all on our website, Creative UK. It's wearecreative.uk is our website, and it's sort of you'll see a lot of stuff on there. But if you hone in on support, business support, and invest pages, you'll see a lot more detail. You can also put in Creative Enterprise in Google, and you'll get to our sort of Creative Enterprise program, which has lots and lots of various interesting schemes. As I said, the foundation games program, game scale up program, evolve program, grant funding in there as well, business support grants where we provide up to 5,000 through a sort of business development expert to help with your business plan, and quite a lot of other support within that. And for our fund is called Creative Growth Finance Fund. It's also on our main page via investor sort of link. And as I said, our R&D tax credit and video games tax credit loan is up and running, and we're really looking forward to sort of supporting more game companies with that scheme.
And you have links to VCs and
Yes.
publishers, and obviously with dealing with over 100 games companies over.
Absolutely.
You know.
So, of course, we invest in games ourselves, but then we also put our game companies in touch with other VCs who we think will be useful for that business. And sometimes we can co-invest. So, if we have invested in someone, but another VC can invest, so we make those connections. We have done that in past. Within, somebody was asking me earlier, if the within game sector is sort of investing in game sector has become mainstream or is becoming mainstream, and actually it is not still. I mean, there are still traditional VCs don't really understand game sector very well, and specialist game investors are sort of, more and more are coming. You guys will know those that are already there, like Hero and like other games funds, but sort of, trying to get to someone, an investor who really is interested in game sector. But at Creative UK, we are trying to make sure more awareness of potential in game, potential for investors to make money in game sector is sort of shining a light on that, so have more investor interested in that space. We also have some links with publishers, and the team that delivers those programs actually have quite sort of structured way of introducing publishers to the game companies who come on our program. So we'll have days where those sort of meetings will happen, and we'll help companies and put them in touch with publishers as and when we can.
Fantastic. We've run out of time, but thank you very much to Mej and Cecilia. Thank you very much. Good stuff. Okay. Our final talk of the day is by one of those VCs who are interested in games that Mej was just talking about there. Makers Fund, a major international VC investor. So here from Makers Fund to talk about how to make your company more investable, get some of that cash, is Archie Stonehill. There he is. Archie Stonehill. Hey.